Pawan, mute everyone.
सबको म्यूट कर दो, स्पीकर
yes yes मैं सबको म्यूट कर रहा हूँ and then finish कर रहा हूँ.
Okay, so Pawan, I think Chintan is there. Chintan has muted everyone. Only the host and co-host can mute themselves. Pawan, Chintan, start the slides. So let me welcome you to this 77th edition of Thursday Musings. Let's hope we find a place in the Limca Book of Records. Next slide, please. Let me hand over the stage to the chairman of the program, Professor Dr. Tufan Pati sir. Sir, I think आपको introduce करने से सबका time waste होगा. Everyone knows you well. Sir, please, over to you.
नहीं, कोई जरूरत नहीं है इंट्रोड्यूस करने का. मेरे को लगता है सब मुझे जानते हैं. अगर नहीं जानते हैं तो जान जाएंगे. आप दोनों है ना. So I take over the meeting. Next slide, please. We have got two vibrant moderators, Dr. Amrit Patjoshi from Bhubaneswar, is Professor of Psychiatry in High-Tech Medical College, and Dr. Alim Siddiqui from Lucknow. He is a Professor of Psychiatry in Eras Lucknow Medical College. Welcome, both of you. And now I have the pleasure to introduce our esteemed chairpersons. Next slide, please. Dr. Binay Kumar from Patna, Consultant Psychiatrist, Manobed Mind Hospital and Research Center Private Limited Part. Secretary, Suicidology Specialty Section of WASP, Coordinator, Publication Committee of Indian Psychiatric Society, immediate past General Secretary of and past Honorary Treasurer and Chairperson, Publication Committee of IPS, Editor or co-author in Interfaces of Psychiatry, IPS Textbook of Undergraduate Psychiatry, Social Psychiatry Principles and Clinical Perspectives, Spectrums of Psychiatry, and received IMA Ramachandra Murthy Award in 2007. He is a good poet and a literary critic, and literary writings in Hindi, 4 books of poetry and 2 books of prose, including an awarded and bestseller book on mental health. Welcome, Binay. He is like my younger brother since he was a student. Welcome, Binay. Next, please. Esteemed Dr. Lakshmikant Rathi, who is Consultant Psychiatrist, Govardhan Hospital, Amravati, Maharashtra. He had been the President of IPS Vice Zone 2020-21, President IPS Maharashtra Chapter 2017 to 19, Founder President of BPA and Amravati Psychiatric Society, past Direct Council Member of IPS 2018 to 20, past EC Member of IAPP, and past President IMA Amravati. Welcome, Dr. Lakshmikant Rathi. Now onwards, the program belongs to the chairpersons. Kindly take over.
Good evening, everybody. It is very nice to be a part of Thursday Musings today and meeting you all, maybe virtually. Corona is changing the life, which all should have been in Vizag today, but unfortunately, it has not happened. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Shubhangi Parkar, today's speaker. As you all know, she does not need any introduction. 2 of her achievements are itself enough to speak volumes about her personality. She is ex-HOD of Department of Psychiatry, as well as a former Dean of the KM Hospital. As I told in formally, I'm also a KMite, so I very much understand how the HOD, what qualities, what qualifications, what personality specializations are needed to become HOD of the KM Hospital. There is a list of awards you can see. She has received BC Marfatia Award, A.V. Shah Award, past President of Bombay Psychiatric Society, as well as Indian Psychiatric Society West Zone Branch, started Mental Health Helpline, Marathi writer and publisher of many articles in various newspapers and books. The famous book on in Marathi is Vaikuntha House and Pakshila. She has received Savitribai Phule Puraskar for mental health work in women, which is a very prestigious award. She has received many things, as many national and international publications. She had served on various subcommittees of IPS, member of mental health and task force. And recently, I had 1 or 2 occasions to be the chairpersons when she was an orator, once in the Pune when she was giving an oration, and today also. Without wasting much of time, I will request my co-chairperson, my brother, Vinay Kumarji, to introduce today's topic. Thank you.
Sir, you have to unmute yourself, Vinay sir.
Actually, I was muted by you, so I thought you will unmute me. One thing I would like to add in the introduction of Dr. Shubhangi Parkar, that she is also a poet. She writes poems, and of lately she is writing continuously. And this attribute has clear-cut connection with the topic she is going to speak. Those who support biological psychiatry, those who understand that biological psychiatry is the main psychiatry, rest other things are waste of time, they cannot think on that line. But biological psychiatry people must understand that brain and mind, despite duality concept, both are affected by lots of things. Suppose if you talk about brain is affected by metabolic syndromes. Brain is affected by endocrine problems. Similarly, mind is affected by lots of things. Brain is not the only factor which takes care of mental health or which expresses itself as good mental health or bad mental health. Human being is always at cross section. Mind is always at cross section. Social factors, poverty, market forces. So if you want to study the good mental health, you have to study the happiness index. You have to study quality of life, and you have to study well-being of person. So lots of things are involved in that. Even sensex is a parameter of mental health. You remember what happens when there was Great Depression? Great Depression, basically economic term there, but that depression made many people depressed and number of suicides happened. Few years back also, there was a crisis, and in America, country like America, people started committing suicide. So even this sensex is also a parameter of mental health. So lots of things. During COVID period, this is a new thing. But suppose if we talk about mental health and COVID, we do not talk only about the effects of COVID virus on brain. We talk about lockdowns. We talk about job loss. We talk about children staying back in home. So all these factors are operative there. And we understand. So intersectional approach is probably the only approach to understand mental health. And we psychiatrists must be aware of that, must be oriented towards that. I'm sure Shubhangi ji has done a thorough research work in this field, and we are going to listen a very good lecture, which will sensitize our mind to understand mental health with a different perspective today onwards. Thank you. So now I request Dr. Shubhangi Parkar ji to start her presentation.
Yes, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yes. So respected Dr. Tufan Pati, Aleem ji, Amrit, Vinay Kumar ji, Lakshmikant Rathi, our colleague. I'm speaking on the topic which is because I'm a...
would you please make it full screen? It will be better.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm speaking on this topic because besides being a psychiatrist, I am also a public health specialist, my PhD in public health. And that's the reason why I keep touching these particular topics. need to understand mental health through an intersectionality lens. Health is not equally distributed in the population, we must know, generally also, and which is a concern in public health policy worldwide. There is some part of the world, there is a malnutrition, some part of the world is very rich, okay? The distribution of health commonly follows a social gradient where groups advantage in terms of the power and resources of many things and influence display better health than those disadvantaged groups. I mean, in India, if we look at Adivasis, if we look at the people who stay in the city, they are a very different population with a different resources, with a different kind of advantages. Like in Mumbai itself, when we look at the central Mumbai, when we look at the Juhu, where it is a full of rich people and the Bollywood of the country, and the place where, I used to go for the community mental health program, Malwani, a shabby shanty town, a slum, in the 30 kilometers distance, you can see tremendous difference in terms of the availability of the day-to-day things. So the health is the interplay between various social position.
Ma'am, the slideshow is not yet on. You can put it in slideshow, full screen.
It is.
At the bottom, there is a wine glass like icon. You would click it, it will be slideshow.
It is a slides already.
A slideshow, full screen aa jayega.
Okay. But I kept it on the full screen already. So this is the only thing which is coming. Okay.
Can you continue?
This is what I am getting with the slideshow. Okay.
Ma'am, can you restart the slideshow?
Okay.
End the share screen and then reshare the screen.
Okay. So stop sharing now.
Yeah, stop sharing and reshare it, please.
Okay. Now.
It is not coming. Madam has clicked on that button, but it is not coming.
Not coming.
Ma'am, you continue in this way only.
Okay. So the next issue is, what do we know about mental health? See, we as a psychiatrist know a lot about biology, about structural and physiological aspect of the brain, and we have tried to identify the mental health problems and the disorders, particularly based on that. However, remember, healthcare system focus is on to prioritize mortality. Eventually, conditions that are not killers of the health, like COVID, but morbid to life, causing disability and deterioration of quality of life, worsening of subjective well-being, are not taken care of, in the national strategies. The importance given to biomedical and individual care and the relative neglect of the action on the social and structural determinants of mental health. I mean, nobody is thinking about, how unemployment impact probably cause worsening of the mental health. How the structural non-availability of the comfort, to stay, or how probably staying in the shanty town can cause mental health deterioration. So social determinants of mental health are powerful factors related to deteriorating mental well-being. Okay, I think we probably have to know this when we sit as a clinician. Somebody who come to us, with a huge debt, and we identify depression, we do give antidepressant, the person is not improving. Ultimately, we go by the criteria of the refractory depression. We try to identify that. We start to adding the medicational strategies, and yet the person is not improving. How would that person improve if that debt remains the same? Okay, so paradox today is promotion of materialism. Today we are happy to have so many luxuries, so many things around, but At the same time, the world is facing the problem of increased magnitude of mental health. So that's a paradox today, and that's the reason why we need to understand, look into this issue in spite of knowing the knowledge, etiological perspective in the psychiatric disorder. What we
And the
know
slides are not,
Slides are not moving.
Slides are not moving.
This is more now.
No, it is not moving, madam. We are all in the first slide.
Oh, why is this happening?
Ma'am, you do not do it full
click
screen.
F5.
F5?
F5, yes, please click.
Now?
F5. Then.
And can you mail it to either me or Alim now? It will take 1
Marik,
minute.
I have mailed to you already.
I've been searching, I'm not getting it, madam.
I have already mailed it.
Today, madam?
Today, just now. Before the starting of this.
Ma'am, in the meantime, you exit the full screen and only the structure of slide you can forward it. Yeah, reshare it.
Okay.
Reshare. Do not make it full screen. Just click on the slide so that you know the broad structure. Just click on the slides. Yes.
Yes, it is
Use
moving.
this format.
Yeah,
at least
can you see now?
Yeah.
Oh, this will do.
Yes,
no
madam.
problem.
This will do for now. Yeah.
Okay. So what we know about mental health is not just about the mind or of the brain. It is about society at large, where this mind and brain is staying. It is not just about the diagnosis and treatment. It is not about antidepressants at large, because we are, having antidepressants with us. But what happens to mental sufferings of the unemployment? Whether antidepressant will be of use? What happens to mental sufferings of the homelessness? Whether antidepressants will take away that suffering of homelessness? Mental sufferings of domestic violence. I mean, how much antidepressant can you give? It is about public health, and it is our collective responsibility as a clinician, as a policy makers, as a service givers, as a mental health professionals. So improving quality of life of people at optimal level should be the global public health concern. And this is a very important. How do we bring our people at the level of feeling happy on the day-to-day business? So poor mental health, I mean, I am using this word deliberately. This is a very important word, to appeal the poverty in the world also. Poor mental health is a globally ubiquitous public health problem, unequally distributed across a wide range of inequality dimensions. Between men and women, we know, we talk about gender issues, between sexual minorities and majorities, between various socioeconomic groups, between ethnic and racial groups, between urban and rural differences. So mental health keeps changing on many of these particular factors. So many factors and social determinants are relevant to mental health. The most important all over globe is the poverty, chronic hunger, race and caste discrimination, joblessness, gender discrimination, violence in general, and violence of domestic violence type, and the complex needs of the people, of street children, of homelessness, so there are of jail prisoners. So there are so many such issues where we really need to look at with a different lens. You just can't see all these things with a single lens of psychopathology, because psychopathology will keep changing in terms of all these particular factors. So understanding intersectionality, originally used in feminist theory to describe Black women's position within waves of power. Okay, they found the sufferings of the Black women very different. Intersectionality has been taken up by health sciences later to help deepen their analysis of structural and systemic issues in health and the inequalities and inequities they create. So ultimately, we started looking at the health not just from the pathological lens, but looking at how structure, of the society probably will contribute in enhancing health or deteriorating health. Understanding intersectionality, this is a term first coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. It is a combination of various identity. I mean, we are women, we are men, we are maybe from different religion, we are a minority, we are elder, we are children, okay? We are from different social class, and then people have different disability problems, different race, ethnicity, etc. Okay, now these identity markers are extremely important otherwise also in the health, but they overlap with each other to create an intersection, and then they operate in the pathology that determines the unique ways in which each of our lives are shaped and the experiences we have. Intersectionality is the understanding of human being as being made of multiple identities all intersecting to make up a person. And hence there is a suffering or privilege depending on what are your identities. You are not defined by just one aspect of your identity, and that includes mental illness. We know somebody telling in the society that that person has mental illness. Nobody looks at that person in terms of the achievement, in terms of the intellectual ability, in terms of the creativity. They look through just one lens, and that's a mental illness which has got negative connotation in the society. There is a social stratification theory we must know that predicts that racial minorities, this is very important because the whole intersectionality came from there. So racial minorities and women should have poor mental health. Poor mental health outcomes than whites and men because they have less social power and fewer resources comparatively. It makes visible the multiple positioning that constitute everyday life, the power relationship that are central to it. We have seen the sexual harassment at workplace happens to women. Okay, and that's a reason why this particular gender perspective matters a lot in terms of the mental health of the woman at workplace. So that's the way different identities start giving explanation for different level of mental health problems at different places. It emerged from women's studies so far. It is looked at by HIV, it is looked in smoking, it is looked in healthcare utilization, and for a decade or so, intersectionality has entered in mental health. I want to talk about Sushant Singh Rajput. That was a case of suicide, okay, during the COVID times. The issue came whether it is an abatement of suicide. The issue came whether it is a murder. He was a Bollywood actor, a vulnerable young man staying alone in the city of Mumbai. The issue come of nepotism or Bollywood mafia. We know Kangana Ranawat got this issue, and there was a huge hue and cry. Okay, then his financial strain came in the picture. The issue came, was it drug abuse? Was he taking marijuana? Okay, and then the whole scenario changed. Okay, the Sushant Singh Rajput's original mental health perspective started shifting, drifting. Okay, there was a girlfriend. No one, however, could have predicted the abuse and torture that has come her way. But it did come. It did come because of her identities, and one of her identities was Sushant Singh Rajput's girlfriend. I mean, that probably was an important issue. Then there were subplots involving rave parties. Now, those issues came in the picture. Murder, strangulation, a possible rape, drug trade, and even a blackmailing and extortion racket, which was probably spoke about by his father and his sisters, all based on loose rumors and prejudice, which came in media. The fabricators of this story, if you remember that time, it's just recent time, included entertainment industry professionals. That included politicians who were not related to whole issue, law enforcement officials, okay, CBI, everybody was there, journalists, social media users, socialites, and of course, Sanskari Indians who believe in upholding the rules of caste and marriage over life and liberty. Okay, the fumes were all over our screens. We were probably getting up and watching this, sleeping while sleeping. We were watching this, and we were high on its perverse invocations. So this is a very important example of thinking about intersectionality in mental health. I will look at the Canadian study. Social environment is a key influence in chance of developing a mental illness. The biggest thing to take away from recent Canadian research is that marginalized groups in Canada experience mental illness and treatment in completely different ways. Canada is a very rich country. However, these people generally do not have access to treatment or the mental illness evolution. Research has shown that women are more likely diagnosed with mental illness, maybe because of bias or maybe the way they express. Okay, maybe it is a psychiatrist bias or maybe the way women talk about it. Racial and ethnic backgrounds can also predispose individuals to unique challenge when it comes to mental illness. So this is a very important study, the UK study. People from BAME, that is a Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities living in the UK are more likely to be diagnosed with mental health problems, be diagnosed and admitted to hospital, experience a poor outcome from treatment, which is standardized treatment. I mean, the treatment remains the same, but these people get poor outcome. There has been a large rise in anxiety, stress, and self-harm in non-white under 18. Reason for this are complex, but include systemic racism and discrimination as well as social and economical inequalities and mental health stigma comes out because if you are a Black and if you are there is a mental illness, we will see what happens in a huge example which happened last year. Mental health is intersectional. It does not exist in isolation from the above identity markers. It's not just being woman. It's not just being working woman. It's not just being a woman exposed to different kind of discrimination. It's all. As stakeholders in the Indian mental health care system, it is our responsibility to acknowledge that our mental health is impacted by our various identities of gender, sexuality, caste, class, age, religion, and disability and language. Also, by the unique life experiences and stressors that accompany them. So we have in India a system of Savarna. We have the India in the system of niche people, and all of them, the people suffer because the resources never remain the same. The discrimination, probably it at the deepest level. So mental health is not only affected by inequalities, but inequalities are also deepened and exacerbated by mental disorder. This is a vicious cycle. Stress and depression, for example, can increase poverty by affecting the ability to work effectively. That's a reason why we know that drift hypothesis. The people who were mentally ill ultimately probably were pushed at the periphery, where they were not able to look after themselves. Aspects of poverty such as poor nutrition, financial insecurity, low level of education, and lack of access to medical care can in turn increase mental health problems because ultimately you suffer. Between 75% and 95% of people with mental health issues in impoverished and developing communities do not have access to any mental health services. This is the global statistic. And there is a strong correlation shown between the mental illness and inequality in rich societies like America, Canada, UK. So how the mental health treatment gap, this is a very important example again which touched me, and systemic racism affected African American contributed to George Floyd's death. This is shaken up, I was shaken up looking at that picture also. See, mental illness should not be a death sentence, okay? Why mentally ill people should be killed? Being black should not be a death sentence because you exist in this world. Yet, in 2020 alone, the whole world have witnessed how these intersecting identities of blackness and having a mental illness, that is a substance use disorder. He was identified to having, like many other African Americans, disproportionately led to the murder of black people by police officers in the USA. There is a lot of literature. Please get into it. So in the closing remark, this I wanted to highlight. In the closing remarks of the trial made on April 19, 2021, Special Prosecutor Jerry Blackwell said, the truth of the matter is that the reason George Floyd is dead is because Chauvin's heart was too small. That was the officer who killed him, in that horrible way. Yes, Floyd died from a lack of compassion. Systemic and individual racism are rooted in a lack of compassion. Why people are aggressive? Why do they kill people in a lower, powerful position? Why do they do that when they do not have the access? This is the reason. George Floyd was one of the 2.3 million African Americans suffering from opioid use disorder, and among 87% overall who are unable to access treatment. This is the fact. Okay. Additionally, there is a treatment gap for those with substance use disorder and mental illness, including depression. Floyd was likely in this group as well. Okay. And that's the reason why this board you see, Black Lives Matter. Okay. And that was a pandemic impact. He lost his job. He was frustrated and he had no money, to feed. He became, victim of substance use disorder. Okay. So this is 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 10 children experience mental health problems to some degree in any year. The impacts of mental health problems ripple out to affect many more people through their social network of family, education, work, and community. So it's not a one person, there are many more. 3/4 of people with mental health problem do not receive ongoing treatment. They discontinue. Maybe it is a money, maybe it are the other markers perhaps. Poverty increases the risk of mental health problems and can be both causal factor and a consequence of mental ill health. And that is intersection. We must know this when we prescribe tablets to our population. Poverty and socioeconomic disadvantage. Mental health problems affect anybody, but they are not equally distributed and prevalence varies across social groups. Among adults, identified higher risk among homeless, with a history of violence or abuse, travelers, asylum seekers, and refugees, and isolated older people. Okay. A number of groups of young people as being at the risk of developing mental health problems, including children living at a socio-economic disadvantage, children with parents who have mental health or substance misuse problem. So there is, negativity, coming in and bringing in negativity. Unemployment, such a huge problem. All over the globe, in a richer country today with the pandemic, there is astronomical unemployment rate. Attempts to reduce their mental distress associated with unemployment cannot be done by antidepressant or anti-anxiety drugs. Along with poverty, unemployment is a structural determinant of mental health problem and crisis. And we really need a different lens to look at that. At clinic level, our social worker do this job in KM, looking into advocacy for getting them the job, basic grants. Canada has developed this model. They have started developing grants to deal with unemployment. I think there we really need to learn a lot. Placing poverty at the top of the priority list, followed by unemployment, is important idea in thinking about how people can achieve optimal health and better mental health. Alcohol and drug use disorder. In many countries, injecting drug users are marginalized population. Remember that in Mumbai too, I see that. Because the drug abuse that dominates their lives is illegal and punishable. People hide. People don't come forward, okay? Thus, they are unable to access psychological services to deal with their mental health problems, prompting further drug abuse. So this is something which the system failure, where we probably do not give platform to people to come forward comfortably and relaxingly. That doesn't happen, and this is where the issue comes. Stress research is a very important. Okay, emotional problem result when individuals are confronted with numerous and are ongoing problematic life circumstances that overwhelm their ability to manage them. Feminist theorists argue that race, gender, and other identity operate simultaneously to enhance and constant life experience. That means they create more stress. So, what I want to say, mental health is a social construct. At one end, there are happiness. At the other end, there are mental illness. Mental illness, we identify as a professional. Okay, happy people don't need to be identified because they lived with the positive perspective of life. Everything is positive. Resources are positive. But when people in between, what happens in between? There are troubles. There is a loss of opportunities, lack of resources, malnutrition, unemployment. So if they go in the direction, opposite direction, probably they strike mental illness. If they get opportunity, because all these things improve, they can come into the happiness zone, come to the positive lifestyle. But this is where we need to understand the intersectionality, okay? I mean, you can't say that people either are happy or either mentally ill. They have to keep traveling on this particular path, okay? Gender research, DSM-3 criteria, find no gender differences in overall prevalence, but do find that women and men experience different types of disorders. Women are more likely than men to experience internalizing disorders like anxiety and depression that involve self-blame and self-reproach. Men, in contrast, are more likely than women to suffer from externalizing disorders like substance abuse, oppositional defiant disorder, or antisocial, which often involves aggressive and confrontational behavior. Okay, Black women are more distressed than white women, and men vulnerabilities probably becomes more at the crossroads of the race and gender. So being woman and being Black, it is definitely negative perspective, to survive in this world. Gender and race, when we look at it, the unique way it affects access to social and economic resources, and it has consequence for mental health. White men are all advantaged on all socioeconomic measures, education, employment, income, prestige. White women earn less than Black men. Black females earn more than white females, but work for a longer time, and the chances of exploitation are more in Black female. So exposure and vulnerability to stressors keeps differentiating. A lot more research is required to understand this interlocking system. Okay. Shekhar Saxena, former director of the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse at the World Health Organization, has given this a beautiful statement. He say, when it comes to mental health, all countries are developing countries. Nobody is better than developing countries. None of them have got it right because intersectionality is not thought about. Okay. Recommendation based on social determinants of mental health. What should we do in general? Efficient responses to mental health problems need to take place at individual, local, zonal, national, and international level. So WHO and World Bank needs to be active in this area. Engage all members of the society as well as health professionals, because only psychiatrists can't bring, change in the structure. We need a policy, good economical policies. We want people to have at least good, place to stay, electricity, water, food, and secure atmosphere. A one good person, a one rich person cannot survive in a society where there is all negativity. He's bound to get mentally ill. So we want more people to understand this. Relevant programs aimed at reducing stigma and isolation. And I mean, there is stigma. In COVID also, there was stigma for the people who were working, frontline workers suffered this, okay? Raising awareness of the social and economic cause of mental health problem is essential, and we need public-private partnership because our country probably has got a bad budget like many Asian countries for mental health. Intersectional collaboration for structural collaboration of mental health, decent housing, it is required for mental health. Water, sanitation, electricity, education, creating jobs, promote dignity and reduce vulnerability to emotional distress. You know why people feel terrible about being poor? You know, they feel robbed of their dignity. They feel that, you know, their self-esteem is not taken care of, and policy laws. You know, this is very important. Prevention aspect is important. Prevention is a central approach to mental health and also to anti-poverty strategy. Garibi hatao. You must have heard this word in Indian politics, and I think that's an important word. Okay, we want people to come out of that, you know, poverty, that terrible poverty. Effective mental health prevention requires a multifaceted approach that takes account of needs at different stages of the life course, different levels of the risk, and the setting in which they can be best reached. Okay, so I don't know how many of us understand that what is homelessness, how unsafe, insecure it is staying on the roads, you know, in the city like Mumbai, in the city like Calcutta. You know, it is so unsafe. Prevention may be focused on different groups of people based on their risk profile. Urban slums, migrant laborers. We have seen laborers walking to their places feeling so much insecure in major cities in pandemic. Okay, farmers, street children, homeless. Prevention can also operate at different phases in the development of mental health problems and recovery from them. I think recovery should be full. It's not just getting out of depression. It is important to feel good and capable of dealing, you know, with the societal pressure. Unfair treatment and discrimination is another thing which comes in the intersectionality. Mental health research is concerned with the stress associated with the subjective perception of unfair treatment and discrimination that occur in social interaction. We have seen migrant laborers, we have seen farmers. The farmers of Punjab definitely are different from the farmers of Maharashtra. The intersectional points are different, okay? But this is something which is very important. I come from KM Hospital, the area in Mumbai, which was full of meal workers. People were happy. They were not rich, but they were happy. They were earning. The families were happy. They were going to their native places, taking a lot of gifts to people. But the minute meal workers stopped, you know what happened to these people is very important, and nobody probably took account of that. They become poor. They had no money. They became frustrated. They couldn't look after of the families. They become, you know, alcoholic. Their children lost the opportunity to learn. Eventually, they became frustrated and they became drug addicts. They became, you know, children with the conduct disorder. So this is the way we need to understand that how these particular things ultimately contribute into dynamics of the mental health. Existence is resistant. Our identities are not the problem. Our sexuality, whether we are men or women, gender identity, disability, caste, class, religion, are never the problem. People are never the problem. The problem lies in systems of power that marginalize and discriminate against certain identities and communities, while privileging and dominating certain other identities and communities. I think we see this. We see the high class people, at the level, and we see lower class of the people by their caste, by their race. And we see that tafawut, we see that discrimination, and that is the system is at problem. Okay. In summary, intersectionality is a vital construct in understanding and supporting best practice clinical care, to increase care providers' knowledge of underserved populations, which is very important, because there is a population we cannot reach. They don't come to us. That's why they are not diagnosed, but they'll stay there. Their life probably expectancy gets reduced simply because they are mentally ill. Understanding the truest meaning of recovery, the ability to live one's best life through the intersection of each person's whole experience. Okay, so awareness of intersectionality, about the policies, about the social structure, about the social determinants related to public well-being is must for everybody who wants to deal with people's life. Message: mental health is distributed in various and unexpected manners across intersections of inequality dimension, nationally and globally. Intersectionality theory may be useful when addressing mental health inequalities. And we have no choice but to address this, because we cannot keep prescribing drugs simply because we know how to. Okay, we really need to probably shake our brains to understand this and try our best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was an enlightening presentation. Ma'am, can you stop the screen share?
Yes.
So over to chairpersons for their opening comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shubhangi. It was definitely a very enlightening, touching all the aspects of this. As we all know, social dynamics have been influencing the mental health since decades. Recently, the corona pandemic itself has shown that how a single pandemic can affect the mental health globally, and maybe in a different fashion. Somewhere people are telling, remove the rules. Somewhere people are telling that you should put in the lockdown. There were different aspects of this. Rich and poor, educated and uneducated, employed and unemployed, living in a village or living in a cities. There are gender differences also, black and white, race and religion. Definitely everything affects mental health to the next of the extent. And this is also true. One thing which I like very much, which Dr. Shubhangi Parker has told, that when it comes to the mental health, whether developing or developed countries are more or less at a par. And this has been, again, I will emphasize, has been shown very well by this corona pandemic. We have to definitely think on this line that drugs are not only sufficient to improve the patient. Your communication with the patient, your rapport with the patient, how do you deal with his other psychonomic factors? How do you support him to understand them, to not get very much influenced by them, is very important. Not only globally, but in every city, everywhere, the psychodynamic aspects of a particular patient who is coming to us are very, very important. This I can say without hesitation in my 44 decades of experience in clinical practice. Ultimately, it was a very good lecture, as always, very clear, methodical, touching each and every aspect of this. Congratulations on behalf of all of us to you, Shubhangi ma'am. And over to you again, moderators. Thank you very much.
Vinay sir, any comments from your side? Then we can go to the question answers. You have to unmute yourself. Sir, you have to unmute yourself.
I'm sure this talk must have convinced everybody that mental health is basically intersectional kind of construct. It's a social construct. Whenever you treat a patient, whenever you see a patient, see as a whole. From patienthood to personhood. Basically, you have to add another dimension, society, which includes all the factors, including economic, cultural, and other factors. So this talk inspires us to treat each and every individual as a social being. Because the moment you cut the person from the society, that becomes a kind of guinea pig. So that shouldn't be there. Whenever we prescribe medicines to our patients, we always think that which drug will be economically viable for them, which drug will be, they can continue. We always think all these things. But apart from that, I think Indian Psychiatric Society must form a task force on this approach. And I would like to request, ma'am, to think about bringing out a book on intersectional approach to mental health. We require this kind of book. And if that book comes to IPS publication, this will add glory. Thank you very much for inviting me to chair this very informative session.
Thank you, sir. Comments from you, Shubhangi ma'am, then we can take the questions from the chat box.
I think I am convinced because Alim, I worked in the very shabby community in Malwani in Mumbai. And I realized my limitations as a psychiatrist, when I started going there and understanding the whole dynamic, basically. So I was convinced about this long back. And we all probably need to get out of our capsule little bit and see the dark reality of this society. And then we really understand how much limited we are. In spite of the up-to-date modern knowledge, knowing recent advances, we probably are limited when we do not understand the dynamics that probably contributes in, deterioration of the well-being of the people. And it is important. It is, we cannot, just leave people. I always feel, Om Puri has predicted these characters, of frustration. And I always feel, when I saw the people so angry, I always feel it is Om Puri syndrome, basically. You are frustrated, you feel deprived, you feel discriminated, at some end, you want to take revenge. I think that's where intersectionality matters, in terms of the well-being of the people. Otherwise, crime, we keep away because we are psychiatrists, but it is a very much part of the mental health. And that restlessness in the society, we must be able to feel, and this is important, I feel so.
Thank you, ma'am. Amrit.
Yeah, that Madam talked about, women internalizing a lot of their mental issues. So there's a question in the chat box. Does educated and working women equally internalize mental issues compared to their counterparts in society? Or you see a different pattern?
See, working woman or educated woman is not just the criteria of having that dynamicity of the mind. We cannot, again, intersectionality come. All working women are not same. All educated women are not same. Which class of the people they are developed. If they are developed in the culture of suppression, okay, they still suffer. And we all see this. We all see depressed women. We see the women who earn and their money is being utilized. The debt on their name is taken. They are exploited. They don't say anything. So I think this is where intersectionality means. There are identities coming from the the societal structure where we stay. Yes.
I have
on a lighter note,
madam.
should we become communist?
Wait, Alim, wait, let me talk then.
Yeah.
So you mean the debts have to be taken in the males' names and they have to be burdened with the debts always? Isn't there a type of bias in our thought process?
No,
why can't the women take debts and
I think again bias is not generalized. Come on, let us be very sure about that. Bias keeps coming on and off, and when it comes, if we have insight, we will be clear on that. Yes, I won't say all men are biased. Neither I would say all women are suffering, but majority of the women are suffering. That's the fact today.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there is a question in the chat box. What are your suggestions to upgrade to fill the huge gap and need to cross this intersectionality? What are your suggestions to improve?
How much activists you would like to? The person who asked me this question, I would sweetly ask, you probably, besides being therapist, sometimes as a therapist, and I am not making this as a general statement, I am making it as a statement. As a therapist, we probably think about our knowledge. Okay, we don't think about, we probably say, hell with society, how are we going to change? If we are not going to change, let us stick to our gun. And our gun is what? We know diagnosis, we know what treatment to give. Maybe we really need to get out of this get that therapeutic activism in us, and probably start, I think I wasn't a very comfortable HOD. I think my deans had trouble with me, basically because I would question why psychiatrists should suffer. Why would take, I had an attitude of Mary's hasi nahi dungi as far as psychiatry is concerned. Okay, so we really need to be committed. We really need to be committed in our profession about people's well-being and about the kind of discrimination and kind of problems they go through. At least we should be sensitive about it. And we should be, start reacting the way we want. I mean, if not at all, I always have approached NGOs and kept my patient with NGOs and got their justice, basically. I mean, it was a troublesome, but it was, I mean, I wanted to do it that way.
Yeah, ma'am, and add-on question, and you are the best person, I think, to answer it because you have been teaching, you have had PG students. Suppose a person is just passing out from the PG, he wants to set up his practice. Now he wants to earn money, he or she wants to earn money. So is this being an activist, going out, how should a new entrant into psychiatry take it up? Because if your coffers are full, I'm having a heavy OPD, I can suppose donate something or take out my time. A new person who is entering, can he or she take it up, and how?
See, the thing is that new person has to earn, right? That doesn't mean he has to shut down his mind. Okay, that's what I mean. Because, earning, and you are a breadwinner, but doesn't mean you have to close your eyes to the societal thing. You want to become a complete, I mean, there is a holistic health. Why not there should be holistic therapists, who understand the dynamism of so many things. Okay, so I think it shouldn't get contradictory. The new person should get into practice with the feeling of empowerment. Okay, I think you have to understand, and in today's society, we really need to understand this. We see troubles. We see troubles,
I think, Alim, your question can be answered in a bit. That's the balance is always there.
Always there.
Earning money is not the end of the world, and it starts from the beginning. Even if you have 4 rotis, it does not mean that you cannot give half a roti. That's what I believe in. Nobody dies if he eats 3.5 rotis. But if somebody is given 3 people give half a roti to a person, he lives to see another day. So I think charity, it's not about how much money you have. It is about the attitude. And if you have empathy as a doctor, I think that charity, the whole social construct will come into play.
And if I may add, charity comes back to you also. That is also helping you spread your good word. So you have a good, you can say, a PR exercise also if you in that way also.
Yes.
And ultimately helping, the client which you have. So it's not you always, but your dynamism, your activism will give you avenues. There are enough NGOs who can do that work for you.
Amrit.
Yes. So yes, madam, that's what I was trying to tell you, that once you start doing good things, people try to connect with you also. A lot of people come and get into the picture, and at the end of the day,
I think Amrit is example for that. Amrit, I think you are one of the best example for it.
Yeah, I see a lot of people coming connected. They don't come to the forefront. They give a lot of money. Today, somebody from RBI came and told that we are ready to adopt 2 patients for a year. So we are ready to spend 15,000 on 1 patient, 2 patients. So please give it to us. We will provide food, medicines will take care of them. So that's around 4 lakh rupees they have committed for 2 patients. I think things will happen. If you do good comes. That's what Alim was telling you. So we should not be, overawed by things like I cannot do that. A small thing also, sets an example and others follows. So what Madam is speaking is absolutely pertinent, and I think that has opened a lot of eyes. And we can go about doing things. And there's a huge, big question. I want to take it. I suppose more than social and structural determinants, we need to take more aspects of nurture, like physical environment, pollution, urbanization, religion, polity, constitutional crisis in suppressing the social justice and denial of rights aspect, economic, structural imbalances, etc. How can we, as a mental health professional, deal with all these things?
Yeah, I think one thing is the sensitivity and adding to the adding with the people who are doing today climate crisis and mental health crisis Both the things are going hand in hand. Okay, so I think there are movements already started. Okay, so we have to probably start helping the people. If we can become leader, nothing like it. Okay, but it is not possible that we can always become leader in this area. But we can follow the leaders and we can help the leaders. Because see, I think this is a very lovely question. You know, I also feel this about climate crisis, mental health crisis, and with the COVID, you know, it is going to be terrible time for next 2 decades. Okay, so if we start becoming alert and we start identifying people, there are scattered people who are doing the work, and we have to identify, we have to shake hands with them, and maybe we will be able to contribute a little bit, of our into that particular act.
So, ma'am, any preference between communism and capitalism?
It's a difficult question, Alim. We may
Wrong
have a
question.
different lecture on this. Really, my favorite
Socialism.
topic. I don't want to touch it right now.
Sure, sure, sure.
Very
Socialism
tricky
versus
you are,
capitalism.
Alim. Very tricky.
Okay, ma'am, there is a question from Dr. Sachin. What is the role of perception of the same social condition across different groups in determining mental health?
Yes, yes, that was my PhD work. Cultural epidemiology. People look at the things from the different personal lenses, and these personal lenses are outcome of our upbringing. The kind of sanskar, the kind of things we are taught. So this it is going to happen. It is normal. It is normal to feel different, to the same events, and I feel that's you're right, in terms of your perception about the world. So this is a natural normal things. Yes.
Amrit.
Yeah, Alim, we have a state president. This is a show that is of the IPS OSB. We have state president Dr.
Sure,
Pranav, who
sure,
does a
sure.
lot of
Please invite,
research.
please invite
He
him.
is currently doing a work on public health with Harvard. So he's asked a question: how much of research has been done on this topic in the Indian context? And it has not been done. I think Dr. Pranav will be ready to take it. Dr. Pranav, madam.
Yeah, we have to unmute him.
Pranav bhai.
Please unmute him.
Yeah, I unmuted.
Or make him co-host.
No, I unmuted. Yeah, Dr. Pranav, you can ask your question to Madam Director.
Thank you very much, sir, for allowing me to speak. Madam, this topic is very much relevant, but our understanding is that when we introduce research at an earlier stage in a PG curriculum, then our own students, they can get like sort of they will understand this topic. It will be more acceptable. They'll try to understand the nuances inside, because there are discrimination or there are marginalization at every layer of the society. So when we start the topic, honestly, I don't know where it starts and where it ends.
Yeah.
And most of the research, it has to be Indian based. That's what. So I just wanted to know whether there has been studies or we need to work on this further.
I'm not very sure about the students who are doing MD doing this research. This probably is the little more mature professionals who have seen the dynamics of the society. They should be doing. The another thing which one can do, something which I tried is getting community medicine and our people together. Basically, because that goes in a very nice, a very different capsule, and you do get a good input about society. They do get a good input. See, I have done my research is with community medicine people. Otherwise, and I landed up knowing more community than there, because I was walking every day in the community, because I was fine. It was mind boggling, but that is the way. I'm not very sure with the MD doing students, they are in hurry to finish that in the given time. This research can take little longer. You really need to give more commitment, more time, and more emotional perspective to this kind of research. But if people do, I think in India it's not done. Some people from the sociology has given some insight. Like for example, the issue of dowry, issue of, I myself, I feel sad about it. I'm being in Mumbai, I didn't look at, it was always the meal workers. I could see the collapsing system. I really feel, I repent though, some of the known patients were from that. And I see the structure failing. My worry today is the same crisis is going in Maharashtra with ST, and I feel, Lakshmikant, you agree with it. The way it is being handled, I feel, these people are also going on the same path of collapsing on mental health system, I think we have to be little alert. So I was a little activist kind of person. So all these things caught my attention. That is how I am in psychiatry.
Madam, I choose to disagree at one point that one thing I believe is that community medicine people, they walk in the community. We think in the community. That makes us a bit more better than them.
But we have to shake hands with some good people.
Yeah, definitely. And yes,
Dr. Pranav is ready to hug a lot of good people.
But thank you for
There's
this
a comment,
particular concern. Yes.
Can I make
there's
a comment?
There's a comment, and I'll go for you. There's a comment in the chat box, I think, which is not fair. Thanks a lot, madam, but I hope you are not appeasing the government to increase freebies and reservations for the so-called minority class.
I hope sometimes that one thing which I'm missing in myself is being politician, and somehow I find myself incapable. Yeah, you really
Dr.
need
Pranav.
that noise also.
Dr. Pranav, listen.
Yeah.
Actually, madam, honestly, this topic, why interested me is that how I was called into a WHO TDR project to understand the care-seeking differences between men and women and those who are marginalized population and urban poor. What are the differences in the care-seeking and how this urban primary healthcare can be strengthened? And regarding this urban primary care, today I was awarded I was awarded a scholarship from Harvard. So in this particular topic, so I think this is very close to my heart.
Yes,
We need
Congrats,
to change
Dr.
health
Pranav.
systems. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, there is a question about Dr. Muktesh, how to handle social media toxicity, rather how to tackle and teach it to the people.
Oh, yes, I think you have to be very careful about your energy. Social media is on different platform altogether. They probably work on a different calculation. So there are 50% who are good. The people who are good, you should be able to identify, have dialogue with them, develop workshops for them, develops opportunity for deliberation. Otherwise, they would keep writing one-sided things. Okay, and it is a big struggle. See, social media is not a very homogeneous thing. That is we must know this. So we have to understand who are for the cause, who are for the politicians, who are for the TRP. And I think we have to start somewhere. So there are good people even in the social media. We have to catch them. Basically. But I'm glad people are thinking in this direction.
Thank you, ma'am. Amrit.
So, madam, there are one or two questions on religious myths that are, stopping patients to get early professional psychiatric help. So, how do we handle those things? I think that's a major area where religious people are.
Absolutely. But you know what? A simple thing. You can't go and talk to religious people. I just can't. I mean, I can't develop dialogue easily with them. So with our patient, we don't have to stop them from going to religious. I always tell them that dawa dua things, that you take medication, you do puja, you do yajna, whatever you do whatever you want. I mean, you have to think about your money, but you must take medication. We have to hear, intersectionality is very clear. And we know the religious people are more stronger than you and I. Okay, we have to keep our population with us, by very positive counseling. It's a very difficult battle.
Yeah, there are suggestions that MSW students and psychiatric social workers can be involved. I think that is a fair comment. Ma'am, your views on it?
Absolutely fair. I mean, we do that. We do that. We have good social workers in the department. So the job, fighting for, mental ill person job, they do all that. They do advocacy.
Okay. Amrit, have we covered all the questions in the chat box?
Yeah, we can take 1 or 2 questions also. Just a minute.
Ma'am, you said in the UK BAM study that the underprivileged and the people were being diagnosed more as mental illness.
Yes.
Ma'am, there have been studies that people are not diagnosed as illness, and that is a sort of wrong favor that is being done. So being diagnosed as mentally ill is a favor, or being not diagnosed as a mentally ill is a favor? What is that?
See, labeling people as a disabled, in terms of the mental illness, definitely it is a problem creating situation. See, having the attitude, of not discriminating them in terms of the healthcare provision in the mental health is the most important aspect. I mean, there are some people who probably land up losing job, losing their status. So this is where the whole issue is a problematic.
Okay, Rathi sir, any experiences from you on the Rotary side that you've been, the Lions Club you have been working, I think?
Yeah, definitely. NGOs will always do. As a Lions, I can say that NGOs teach you what is the joy of giving. And as you are told, everybody, it comes back to you multiplied. I have been associated with the organization also. I was a governor of Lions Club also. Recently, I will give you example कि जब प्रवासी मजदूर का ट्रैवल शुरू हुआ था तो अमरावती में बंडेरा जंक्शन के पास हमने 3 लाख लोगों को 3 lakhs people in 2 months we have given food. There was a community kitchen developed by us in which very many people donated. As Amrit was telling, they never told that disclose our donations and anything, because this helps a lot. So today this is a scenario in which Madam has taken professional social aspects of this. And one thing will always remain, unless and until everybody on this globe gets what we call roti, kapda, and makan, the social factors are going to affect the mental health in various dimensions at various places, depending on our situation in the society. I don't know what you are telling, but many people have given many interviews in the article and they were telling कि सर आपके तो अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं कोरोना के बाद और आपका काम बढ़ेगा. But practically I have felt that nothing has increased. I'm very much satisfied with the work I have got. I'm overloaded. But one reason, recently, yesterday, one newspan asked me, sir, what is the reason it has not increased? I told him that probably everybody feels that he is selling in the same boat. सबको कोरोना का डर है, सबके अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट गए हैं, सबको कुछ ना कुछ इकोनॉमिकल क्राइसिस हुई है, सबके किसी न किसी के रिलेटिव्स की डेथ हुई है. So what is happening that people are identifying with each other. वो बहुत सुखी है और मैं बहुत दुखी हूँ, ये कल्पना ज्यादा नहीं की जा रही है. This is all NGOs will definitely help, has helped. Madam also has the experience of this. And in a time, I think IPS should also get involved with NGOs, as Madam was telling in her experience, that can also be done in various aspects wherever it is needed. This will be my submission, Alim.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Tufan, sir, your comments, please.
I have few observations and comments. My observation number 1, the interest and zeal with which Dr. Parker has delivered this address appears it is from her heart. That means she has identified herself with the context of intersectionality and the distress, social distress that comes out of that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And second point is that as I perceive the problem, issue of intersectionality, it is not only a mental health issue, it is a social construct that is disturbing, which we have to deal with. And it is not a new, we are thinking of this after it was brought into limelight as a result of the African Black women were neglected in US. But there is a doctrine of domination and oppression. It has been propounded by colleagues that has run down the edges, not now. The economic expansion, colonization, organized violence, mass killings, depopulation, dislocation, economic deprivation, that has occurred down the ages all over the globe. In all the countries that we call now developed, that had been there and that was there. And imagine a person living in a community, identifying himself with a society that has been marginalized down the ages. Now he finds to be oppressed to be a safe position. And that brings into consideration, we have to enhance his personal standpoint, the standpoint epistemology of this person about himself, that has to develop. And in this, what Dr. Parker has told, what we need to have our job, our aim, or the way we can help the society is to achieve, not to deal with mental morbidities only. It is about having absolutely good mental health that forms a part of the definition of health by WHO. It is for mental health, not how to diagnose and how to treat. And that is very important. And truly, one has to be activist, but not all the psychiatrists in India or all over the world will become activists. Some will be activists, and those who become activists in this regard, our hats off to them, our support from them. You can be. Amrit is smiling, he can be. Alim is thinking whether he will be. There are many people who can be. And about coordination with Lions and Rotary, as Alim asked and Dr. Rathi replied, I am in Rotary since long. I believe in Rotary. And Rotary has been doing this work since long in different ways by different clubs because our activity is club dominated. During COVID also, most of the Rotary clubs have acted in various ways. But at times, it is personal consideration. At times I feel as if helping others, advertising this, making photographs and showing it in conferences takes us towards one point when we can tell altruism can be a sublime form of self-esteem. We want some people to be at the other end so that we can help them. Maybe we are at the danger of dragging ourselves to that. God save us from that. Your talk has been nice, extremely commendable, and be an activist, be the leader we are behaving. Thank you very much.
Amrit, over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, madam. It was a really passionate, talk. It was less about psychiatry and more about things which I think we should be open to. We have one section of psychiatrists who are only talking about biology. We have one section of people, a small segment who are still fighting for the biopsychosocial model. And I think COVID has taught us that it is not just the biology, it is the sociology also that has impacted a lot of people in the current generation. I think the numbers are speaking enough. Many of the people who have never been anxious, never been depressed throughout their life have come to us, and then they are recovering and they are much better now that things have improved. So it was really a brilliant thing. It was away from what we have been learning, what we have been taught about. Thank you so much, madam, for this wonderful lecture. Then next I would like to thank Dr. Vinay Kumar, who is on intravenous injections, high dose antibiotics, and still managed to smile and look more handsome than Alim when he was speaking. So congratulations to Dr. Vinay Kumar sir. Lakshmikant sir, always smiling, always gentle, genuine. Thank you so much, sir, for coming and enlightening the whole session and talking about your experiences with the Rotary Club. Tufan sir, as always, he's the wisest man among all of us, and he speaks less, but it's worth its weight in gold. Thank you, Dr. Pranab. From today, he has taken charge of a COVID hospital, and he's in charge of a COVID hospital. He recovered from the third bout of COVID maybe 7 days back, and he's been getting a lot of scholarships from Harvard and whatnot. Universities I can't pronounce also, even though my English is not bad, but I can't pronounce some of the universities he has got scholarships from. So thank you, Pranab sir, for our president, for coming and making this whole session worthwhile. Thank you, Alim, for change. This year, this is the first time he has allowed me to speak. And I think Thank you so much, Aline. Thank you.
Hello.
We had more than
Thank you very much. How are
250
you?
people who had logged in.
How are you?
202 was the
How are you?
peak, and that's a wonderful thing. Today was supposed to be the ANSIP's big opening day of ANSIP's, and I and Alim were thinking, क्या करेंगे यार, कैसे करेंगे? Banquet में बैठेंगे, यहाँ बैठेंगे. But then we managed to sit down here and have this session. So thank you to our people who follow us, who egg us to get better topics, better speakers. Shubhangi ma'am to बोल दिया, congrats कर दिया. Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Alim. Good night for the Torrent people who have been at the back end. Alim is a hard taskmaster. He's always behind them. So thank you, everybody.
Parker,
I hope they are not complaining about me.
Dr. Parker, one suggestion. I would like you to, in some next session, suggest some practical tips. How can a mental health professional add to the activism? That is required. The social turmoil is required, and structuring is required. So many inequalities. You see the tribals and tribals everywhere. I am working with the tribals, and so many inequalities. So a social, and you are an activist. You are going to a politician.
Yes, sir. My new assignment in the Palghar, and there I see whole tribal things, basically. In fact, I selected that place to work is because of that. So there is a different. I was always in the city and now shifted there, so it's a good feeling. Yeah. Thank you.
Madam will actually, मैं बोल देता हूँ फिर तुम बोलो. Madam will actually teach us how to be activist without stepping on any politician's shoes. That's the most important aspect. Because every time, sometimes Alim is called to speak, he tells me, Amrit, क्या बोलूं? Sometimes I ask him, यार मेरे को
but वो आर्ट है, वो सीखना चाहिए, वो आर्ट है.
But मार पड़ने के बाद आर्ट.
नहीं, मार नहीं पड़ता है.
आर्ट अपने मुंह पे नहीं चाहिए ना.
थोड़ा सा पब्लिक बातें करते हैं तुम्हारे बारे में, गुस्सा हो जाते हैं तुमसे. As a dean, they were angry with me. But that's okay. You have nothing
but a
to
dean
lose.
Getting angry is different, madam. But a politician of the ruling party getting angry with you.
The politicians get angry on you. You don't listen to them.
When you believe in a purpose, you should not refrain from doing it, even if there is a risk of murder.
Sir, बिना ब्रेक का एक्सीलेटर मोड़ने पे तो आपको पता है. You need the brakes. Brake systems are very important.
You want to tell anything, Fabian?
Yes,
Fabian wants to. Fabian, please.
I just want to give a line. My teacher of appreciation, that we have received this training all through while we have worked under her to be community-based and to give psychosocial milieu such emphasis. And inspired by her and the work and the learnings that I have with her, I started a Community Connect program in 2nd of May 2020 called Mandarpan to reach out to the community and give them positivity about mental health. And each episode bringing a patient to talk about their story and ending it with a song on a positive note with people who sing. And I'm happy to say that we've completed 90 episodes and we are running towards 10 more to make it 100 in March. And that is inspiration that we get from people like Dr. Parker, who has been my teacher. We also have an initiative called Psychiatrists Unite, of which Amrit and Alim are very active people. 14 psychiatrists come together to reach out to people and do work through awareness videos, etc. So I think we continue to require stalwarts like Dr. Parker to inspire us and take mental health forward. Thank you, madam, for everything.
Thank you, boss. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alim, you're speaking something, then we'll close it.
नहीं ठीक है. I was wanting to invite Dr. Fabian only.
Yeah.
Rati sir, any concluding comments from your side, and then we can wind up.
Oh, it was a very fine, very nice lecture by Dr. Shubhangi ma'am. Very nice discussion. People participated very well. Lots of queries were this. And these social factors will always remain. They were there, whether it is COVID, non-COVID, whatever it is, because they're a part of life. Everybody can't be equal. As we know, often it comes that 90% of the wealth has gone to the 10% of the people. So this inequality will definitely be hitting the mental health. That will be my final comment. Thank you very much for inviting me, listening to me, and giving. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think I'd like to. Tufan sir ne comment bola. It was a lecture spoken from the heart. So it was reflecting. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Definitely. Good night.
Everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Vinay Kumar had just rang and communicated his note of appreciation, and I have thanked him on our behalf. He has just rang one minute ago.
Okay.
So
thank you, sir. With your permission, close the meeting now.
Yeah, we should close the meeting. अदरवाइज हम तो भगते रहेंगे ना, हमारा क्या जाता है।
ओके, थैंक यू एवरीवन।
दरिया किनारे बैठे हैं और क्या करेंगे।
Chintan, we can close the meeting now.